A discus book. Aesop's Fables. Boar. Aesop's Fables. The Crab and His Mother. An old crab said to her son, "Why do you walk sideways like that, my son? You ought to walk straight." The young crab replied, "Show me how, dear mother, and I will follow your example." The old crab tried, but tried in vain, and then saw how foolish she had been to find fault with her child. Example is better than instruction. The Fox and the Grapes. A hungry fox tried to reach some clusters of grapes hanging from a vine. He jumped up and snapped at them time and time again, but they were too high. So he went off, saying to himself, "The grapes were sour anyway." In the same way, some people blame what they do not succeed in doing. The Ants and the Grasshopper. One winter, the ants' store of grain had got wet, and they were laying it out to dry. A hungry grasshopper came by and asked them for something to eat.
"Why did you not gather food in the summer like us?"
asked the ants. "I hadn't the time," replied the grasshopper. "I was busy making sweet music." The ants laughed at the grasshopper.
"Very well," they said. "Since you piped in summer, now you can dance in winter."
Work hard, and you will be prepared for the worst. The Travelers and the Plane Tree. Two travelers were walking along a bare and dusty road in the heat of a summer's day. Coming upon a plane tree, they happily took shelter from the burning rays of the sun in the deep shade of its spreading branches. As they rested, looking up into the tree, one of them remarked to his companion, "What a useless tree the plane is. It bears no fruit and is of no service to humankind at all." The plane tree interrupted him with indignation.
"You ungrateful creatures," it cried. "You come and take shelter under me from the scorching sun, and then in the very act of enjoying the cool shade of my foliage, you abuse me and call me good for nothing."
Ingratitude is short-sighted. The Crow and the Pitcher. A thirsty crow saw a pitcher, and hoping to find water in it, flew to it with great delight. When she reached it, she found that she could not get at it because the pitcher did not contain a lot of water. She tried everything she could think of to reach the water, but all her efforts were in vain. At last, she thought of something clever. She collected as many pebbles as she could carry and dropped them one by one with her beak into the pitcher until the water rose to the brim. She drank until she had satisfied her thirst and then flew off. Necessity is the mother of invention. The Dog and His Shadow. A dog who had in his mouth a piece of meat stolen from a kitchen saw an image of himself in the water as he crossed a river. He thought that the piece of meat in the shadowy reflection was a larger prize carried by another dog, so he decided to snatch it. How disappointed he was! As he greedily opened his mouth to grab the other piece, he lost both his own piece of meat and the meat he was after, for the one was carried away by the river, and the other was only a shadow. The person who goes after what belongs to another justly loses what he already has. The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse. Once upon a time, a town mouse went to visit her friend, a mouse in the country. The country mouse welcomed her guest with warmth and asked her to stay to dinner. The town mouse accepted the invitation, and they spent the day talking and walking around the fields. In the evening, the country mouse laid the table for dinner and served up a simple meal of barley, corn, and rye. The town mouse turned up her nose at the food. She said, "You live like an ant in the country if you eat only grain. Why don't you come to town with me tonight? I have a lot of good things to eat, and you are welcome to share them with me." So the two mice set off for town. They arrived at the town mouse's house, and since both were hungry, they went straight to the kitchen. The town mouse offered her peas and beans, cakes and pastries, bread and cheese, dates and figs, as well as honey and fruit. The country mouse was amazed at the riches of a town kitchen, and the thought of her poor country house filled her with shame. But as soon as they sat down to eat, the door opened suddenly, and the room was filled with the noise of growling and barking. Shaking with fright, the country mouse scampered after her friend into a hole. "What was that?" she squeaked in panic. "It's just a dog," replied the town mouse. "He will soon go away." "Just before I do," said the country mouse, deciding that she did not care for the town with all its riches and dangers. She said goodbye to her friend as soon as the coast was clear. "You may eat your fill and enjoy yourself in this town," said the country mouse to the town mouse, "but I would rather eat my simple grain in the country without being worried or having to watch anyone out of the corner of my eye." Better a simple life with peace and quiet than luxurious fare and fear. The Cat and the Birds. A cat heard that the birds in an aviary were ailing, so he dressed himself up as a doctor, and taking with him a set of instruments proper to his profession, presented himself at the door and inquired after the health of the birds. "We shall do very well," they replied without letting him in, "when we have seen the last of you." A villain may disguise himself, but he will not deceive the wise. The Quack Frog. Once upon a time, a frog traveled from his home in the marshes and announced to all the creatures that he was a learned physician, skilled in the use of medicine and able to cure diseases. Among the crowd was a fox, who called out, "You are a doctor! How can you pretend to heal others when you cannot even cure your own lame legs and blotched and wrinkled skin? Physician, heal yourself." The Fox and the Crow. A crow was sitting on the branch of a tree with a piece of cheese in his beak when a passing fox decided to get the cheese for himself by playing a trick on the crow. "What beautiful feathers you have," said the fox, "and what a pleasing face and figure. If only you had a lovely voice, you would be the most handsome and regal of all the birds." The foolish crow, flattered by all these charming words, and eager to show that he did indeed have a fine voice, opened his mouth to sing, and so dropped the piece of cheese. The clever fox immediately gobbled up the fallen treat and said, "You certainly do have a voice, Mr. Crow, but you don't have your wits about you." Pride is no match for cleverness. Cheese.
My Silly CD of Counting. Written by Susan Americaner.
Nine penguins take a sleigh ride through the ice and snow. They watch the snowflakes falling as they hear the cold wind blow. Ten tigers think it's lots of fun to ride on surfboards in the sun. They crash into the sandy shore, then get right up and ride some more.